All right, everybody. I saw something that made me jump out of bed. I was about to go to sleep. I was reading the New Testament, educating myself leisurely in bed, and then I saw something that woke me up, a quote. So, this is, let me share, you know what? Let me share my screen with you so that you would understand what I'm talking about here. So this is the app where I read the Bible at. And the reason I'm recording when I read it is because this is the work of my good friend Hila, currently only available on Apple, but it's going to be on Android in about 2 months. So look forward to it. And I think it's important. She had created this app because she truly believes that restoring Christianity in the West would save it from the situation where it's at. And I want to help. So I'm educating myself by reading it. And here's what I've been reading. The fact that Tucker Carlson had quoted, which one was it? Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Is just a coincidence, maybe, on why I chose to read this part specifically. So, it's interesting. It's blessed are the merciful, cute. I don't know if I understand it completely, honestly speaking, but maybe that would be a different video. If you guys are interested, I want to see what you guys think about me talking about the New Testament. But there is a very cool feature in this app, by the way, where you can save quotes that are interesting. So I marked several in that page because I was like, interesting. A lot of them are very famous. I was surprised how many famous quotes there are in that one page. So here's the one quote where I was like, but I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council. And whoever says, you fool, will be liable to the hell of fire. Right, so this got me all up in arms. Sorry, something jumped. Doesn't it equate words with violence? And, just to make sure I'm not completely crazy, I decided that I kind of want to, have a conversation with ChatGPT. And I'm not going to show you the conversation from the beginning, but in general, it was a lot of, at first, my first reaction was, okay, so it kind of sounds to me that it equates words with violence. And then I asked ChatGPT if there are similar concepts or ideas in the Torah. And then I asked if there are any clear statements in the New Testament that contradict the might have, the perceived idea that violence and speech can be equated to that degree, which I felt was a bit extreme in that verse. I have to share with you this conversation. I think it's such an important conversation to have, honestly, because if we want to make the West great, we might also need to understand the vulnerabilities that were exploited to make it not as great as it could have been. So I have a better layout here. All right, so in the Torah, there is a clear distinction between murder and speech. So here are two examples. In you shall not murder, that's a commandment from the 10 Commandments. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but yes. And then you have Leviticus. You shall not go around as a slanderer among your people. You shall not stand up against the life of your neighbor. I am the Lord. You shall not hate your brother in your heart, which I think I've made a mistake in my 10 Commandments video, because I didn't remember that specific kind of phrasing appearing in the Bible, honestly. But you shall reason frankly with your neighbor, lest you incur sin because of him. So notice murder, slander, hatred, rebuke are all real categories, but clearly separate. The New Testament warns are not violence. So these are words that, like, these are examples where it's not treated as violence. But I wanted more than that. I wanted something that says, maybe because that kind of statement appeared, maybe something that would say words are words, I don't know, something that would be stronger. Anyway, here are the options it gave me as an example. By the way, most of the conversation was trying to get something that would prove that this is just as, maybe me not understanding or just a slip up. So Corinthians, when rivaled, we blessed. When persecuted, we endure. When slandered, we entreat. We have become and are still like the scum of the world, the refuse of all things. Rivaling and slander are endured, not treated as the same as murder. I don't know if it's true though, actually, because it's like when persecuted, being persecuted means that you are getting murdered. I actually think that ChatGPT is wrong here, and it again kind of puts speech with violence. But obviously, only if you have that context in mind, I think, would you read it this way. So do not repay evil for evil or reviling for reviling. I don't know how to say that word, but on the contrary, bless, for this is you were called that you may obtain a blessing. Verbal attack is acknowledged but not criminalized as violence. But is it because they don't have the power to criminalize it? I'm a cynical reader. Matthew, it is enough for the disciple to be like his teacher and the servant to like his master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they malign those of his household? Jesus predicts insults. He treats them as unpleasant, but not as murder. All right. And then, O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? Paul himself uses harsh words. If words equals murder, Paul is guilty. Yeah, well, I don't think I'm, from reading the Quran, it's one of the instincts you start developing is that just because somebody says something, it rarely means that he actually means that. It also implies on his side. It's just their side, right? So the apostles, Jesus, everybody can be angry and call others foolish. But they are the righteous ones, so they're allowed to. Sorry for being so cynical. Please endure with me, because what I saw later really, I think, puts it in a perspective that would make my position maybe understandable, even by those who feel like I'm not trying to attack it, okay? So, key contrast. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angering with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says you fool will be liable to the hell of fire. So versus everything above, Torah and the New Testament epistles keep murder, insult, anger, and slander as different categories with different treatments. Matthew 5 collapses them. So, all right. Torah draws bright legal lines: murder, not slander, not anger. Most of the New Testament acknowledges insults, rivaling slander, painful but not violence. Matthew, unique anomaly, collapses speech into murder, source of words are violence. So here I was like, okay. So originally it's in Greek. So unlike parts of the Bible that are written in Hebrew, I cannot go and check what the original intention was. So this is where my brain went to. And that's interesting because so many scripts added without cause after angering. So it would read, everyone who is angry without cause, and this drastically softens the passage. Not all anger is murder. Only unjust anger is apparently murder, which I think in that sense, if you add that, then you can say those who have bitterness, a lot of times at some point they would take action or encourage action or incite, but I would still not blend those things together. It's just such a slippery slope, as a lot of free speech defenders like saying. This dress I read it, and many modern Bibles leave that phrase out because it's not in the oldest manuscripts. So older translations kept it. Whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. Oh, this is really softness. It's like, shall be in danger of the judgment. It really softened it. This shows even early Christians were uncomfortable with a blanket anger equals murder teaching. That's fascinating. And here's another aspect, legal language. Jesus's words here use courtroom vocabulary. Liable to judgment. By the way, if I'm reading badly, it's because I'm really tired. I was no joking that I was like ready to sleep, exhausted. But I also wanted to share my honest, emotional reaction, which I think by the time I managed to start filming it, not as be the same as when I felt when I got up, All right, liable to the council. That's Sanhedrin. Liable to Gehenna. I read Arabic too much. Gehenna. Liable to Gehenna. This could be hyperbole or rhetoric escalation, not a literal reclassification of insult as homicide, but a way of saying anger and contempt are deadly serious in God's eyes. That is 100% a true statement. But I don't think you should have used legal courtroom vocabulary to express that kind of sentiment. If so, it may not have been meant to dismantle the Torah's legal categories, but to shock the audience morally. Which makes sense in the context of that speech, right? It was meant to be very shaky. But when you write something down, it has a different, if you don't have the context of sitting with your siblings around the bonfire, getting scolded for fighting each other, which really reminds me is, wow, okay, so this is not a planned story to say, but we're 4 siblings, by the way. We had a fight, all of us, right? And my mom sat us down It was a long, long time ago. And she was like, with a timer, every person got their time to shine and complain about the rest of the siblings, right? So like we all had a kind of a list of complaints to the three others. And we were like, I think we told my mom that we want a divorce. And she said, yes, siblings cannot get a divorce. You are apparently siblings for life, and signing a divorce and claiming that you are not siblings is not an option. Just a lesson I learned. Sorry. All right. So cultural context. In Jewish law, Torah, and the Talmud, insults are indeed condemned, but always distinct from murder. For example, Bava Metzia calls public shaming like spilling blood, metaphorically, but the Torah never legislates it as capital crime or something, I guess, that you can punish. Jesus, I think, yeah, well, I mean, you can punish in certain cases when it's slander that has consequences. Anyway, why did I film this when I'm tired? I should have waited till the morning. Jesus may be standing in that tradition of moral metaphor, not legal redefinition. So is it a translation misreading? Yes, partly. The omission of without cause in modern Bibles make the passage far harsher. If the original sense was unjust anger, then it doesn't abolish all anger. Yes, in tone. Hyperbole metaphor may have been intended, but later readers and modern activists took it literally. Words equal violence. And don't worry. I think this is the most important part here. No in thrust. Even without cause, the passage still places anger insults in continuity with murder. It's a moral flattening, even if not a judicial one. So Matthew might not originally mean every word. Well, obviously not every word, but like the one that we don't like hearing equals murder, but it does blur categories in a way that the Torah never did. Later translations and interpretations made the blurring even worse. And this is where I asked, are there any indication that this inspired the idea of words equals violence, as we know today? And it says, yes, there are clear indicators that Matthew is one of the deep roots of the modern words equal violence idea, even if the connection isn't straight line, but more like a chain of cultural inheritance. Let me show you the trajectory. Wait, how did Muhammad Hijab say it? You can, no, whatever, all right. Matthew 5's collapse of categories. Anyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever says, you fool, will be liable to the hell of fire. This is the earliest major text in Western civilization that puts insults and murder on the same continuum of moral seriousness. This is the earliest major text in Western civilization that puts insults and murder on the same continuum of moral seriousness. Which makes me ask, and I didn't hear, does it appear anywhere else? Is it just Western civilization that didn't see that epiphany before, or is it global? I should ask that actually when I scroll down. Even if meant hyperbolically, it planted the seed that words are not just wrong, but blood-level crimes in God's eyes. How do you read it? Patristic and medieval theology. Church fathers like Augustine quoted this passage to argue that speech sins are as dangerous for the soul as murder. By the Middle Ages, Catholic confession manuals treated insults, slander, and anger as moral sins in the same category as homicide, not in courts, but in moral theology. Society shaping effect. People internalized that words can damn you to eternity, not just offend. By the way, I don't know why I added that here, but rabbinic parallels, different but related. In the Talmud that we love so much, but the Talmud, there are a lot of interesting things in the Talmud. Public shaming is called like spilling blood. By the way, this is something that is taken advantage of a lot. So, you know how there are some influencers who like talking about body parts of other influencers, whether they have them or they don't. Well, if you do it as a Jew, oh my God, you'd get ostracized because this is public shaming. And Jews have so much information that could be spilled to take away the legitimacy of a lot of people talking in manners similar to this, body parts. And they don't, because it is such a taboo. Yeah. And I'm being hypocritical here because I've been told those parts that would shame people publicly from people who know them. And I wouldn't, because I don't want to be excommunicated. So cannot show them. Or, well, it's not completely a bad thing. It's just very annoying when you try to look for people to gossip with. Some Jews are just awful. And like, let's gossip. Gossip? Oh my God. Like, come on. All right. Fine. So, public shaming is called like spilling blood. But here it's a metaphor, not law. 100%. It's not law. It's a metaphor. Okay? And it just so ingrained in our culture that come on, I just want people to spill some tea, and not me, because I don't want to suffer the consequences of being judged by the other Jews for shaming others publicly. Judaism kept categories separate legally. Christianity, by contrast, using Matthew 5. Oh my God. Christianity, by contrast, used Matthew 5 to moralize the metaphor into doctrine. Protestant preaching inherited the Matthew 5 emphasis: hatred and insult equals murder in the heart. By the 19th, 20th centuries, in English and American sermons, pastors regularly quoted Matthew 5 to condemn angry words as spiritually equivalent to killing. So this is from modern Christianity to secular morality. When secular culture drifted away from church, it retained the moral intuition. Words can be violence. And we get to today's humanities derangement syndrome. Today's activist culture. The slogan, "Words are violence" or "Speech is harm," is a secularist echo of Matthew 5 theology, confession manuals turned morality, modern identity politics, psychology politics. I don't know what that means, but sure. The legal flattening that activists push, hate speech equals assault, resonates with Matthew 5's moral flattening. Insults equals murder. So yes, there are strong indications. Matthew 5 is not the only route. Oh, Stoic philosophy. All right. That's where it also. Modern psychology, trauma theory also play a role. What is Stoic philosophy? Is it Western? I'm uneducated. Ask ChatGPT. What's that? Yes, yes, I need to educate myself ASAP. This is shameful. I'm shaming myself publicly. I'm spilling my own blood with my ignorance. Right, so apparently Matthew 5 is not the only route. I mean, but modern psychology developed in the West. Modern psychology developed in, well, Protestant societies, right? In Germany, a lot of it, and trauma theory also play a role. So that would mean it's culturally inherited, that notion as well. All right, but it is the first major Western text to equate words and anger with murder. It set precedent that Christian culture enforced for centuries. Without Matthew 5, the ground would have been much less fertile for today's words equals violence idea. Guys, this is so important. Okay, we're fighting to bring back the values that made the West great, but something also allowed an opening for the crumbling of it. And it's, I think, so important to understand what caused that. Clearly, that passage had been used by Catholics, by Protestants, and early Christians understood the problem, right? So they tried to soften it. They understood the possible consequences of this passage being written and exploited, and it was by the church itself. This is why I say, like, those who, in the 10 Commandments video that I made, I talked about those who use or talk in the name of God. If they use God's name in vain, they would be, their name, reputation, this kind of sin would not be erased. So yes, there are strong indicators that Matthew 5 is not the only route, unless what is Stoic philosophy. All right. When I mentioned Stoic philosophy is another root of words are violence idea, let me unpack that. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, those are the Stoics, were active in the centuries around the rise of Christianity. They taught that words and insults can wound the soul, even if no physical harm is done. Words inflict wounds that are slow to heal. It is not the man who rivals or strikes you who insults you, but the view you take of these things as insulting. That's very different. He admits words feel like violence, but urges you to toughen your mind against them. How is it? ChatGPT, didn't you just twist these very? I mean, if that is all, right, because I didn't read everything yet. Like, if that is all, didn't you just unnecessarily tarnished those gentlemen's reputation for not in vain? that is a false testimony. This bad impression, you know. What do I expect from this stupid program? This is why you need to question everything it says. So yes, there are strong, which means, by the way, if you guys have any other information that shows that Matthew 5 was not used in the way that ChatGPT claims it was, please let me know. Yeah, right. So it was the first major Western text to equate words and anger with murder, and it set a precedent that Christian culture reinforces to this day. Without Matthew 5, the ground would have been much less fertile for today's words equals violence idea. By the way, for those who don't remember, Matthew 5 has a lot of interesting parables that might have opened a door to a lot of damage that needs to be talked about, clarified somehow in a way that is agreed upon. It's a I don't know what is the Christian solution to that? Like there's a lot of things in Judaism where it says something like it says you need to stone people for adultery, and then I genuinely asked, like I looked for it, I opened my Bible and I said, I don't know, dear AI, any AI, I asked several. I don't know. I tried reading my Bible, but I noticed something. There are a lot of adulterers in the Bible, but not much stoning. What's up with that? The Torah doesn't follow its own punishments when it comes to idolatry, right? I don't know. I mean, you even get to crown your son as the next king after committing idolatry. In fact, some cases that weren't explicitly written, but between the lines it's implicit, of adultery are outright celebrated because of a greater cause. I mean, that there are some cases that are different, right? So when Jews talk about it, they say, "Yeah, it's written, but we don't do the punishment part." Why? Like even if other in other cases where death penalty could be more than justified, and I'm not talking about adultery, it is very, 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 very rare for Jews to judge anyone to the death penalty. Adolf Eichmann got it. It's very rare to get it. It's very rare. So but we talk about it, the conversation exists. I guess maybe there is an element of selfishness there, right? Because if you have judged wrongfully, you are now a murderer for sentencing an innocent person to die. So better not have that kind of thing on your conscience. Maybe. It's an interesting question, isn't it? Like when you read the Torah, and a lot of those things are like, ooh, scary. And then you look at the history, and the Torah doesn't even believe in it. Which is weird. Whatever. Jews just live with that peacefully because they like arguing to compensate. All right. So let's see if the Stoics deserve that bashing. All right. Overlap with Matthew 5. The Stoics and Jesus were shaping moral imagination in the same Greco-Roman world. The Stoics' words are harmful, but the wise man learns to ignore them. Jesus' words are morally murderous, liable to divine judgment. Both elevate speech from mere talk to something that with existential stakes. But how can you compare those two? Like, what's wrong with this program? Influence on Western thought. Early Christian writers, especially Augustine, were trained in Stoic and Platonic thought. They fused the two. Stoic seriousness about words, moral weight, and Matthew 5, theological damnation for speech. What is damnation? I don't know this word. Damnation. Theological damnation for speech. Result, a cultural conviction that words cut as deeply as blows, which carried into medieval and modern ethics. So that was Stoicism, a Greco-Roman philosophy that, like Matthew 5, gave moral and emotional weight to insults. The big difference, Stoics said, train yourself to be immune. Matthew 5 said, your words themselves will damn you. How, I'm sorry. I have to tell ChatGPT, what you did when you mentioned the Stoics as a cause in answer before is slander. I hope that's how you write it. Just I'm training my ChatGPT to be moral. All right, so yes, it admits. It says I'm guilty. Should we judge ChatGPT by Matthew standards and like condemn it to eternal soul burning in hellfire? Right. All right. So the Torah says clear distinction. Murder is not insult, is not anger. Matthew collapses categories. Anger / words equals murder. New Testament letters, Paul, James, Peter, mostly resist that collapse. They acknowledge insults exist, but do not equate them with murder. Church traditions leans heavily on Matthew 5, reinforcing the speech equals harm, moral equivalence. Modern activists, secular echo, words are violence. That's the straight line. The Stoics are background philosophy in the same era, but they're not necessary for your case. I'm protecting the Stoics. I feel like I should educate myself, and maybe after I finish reading the New Testament, there are a lot of words to read there. So if we keep it disciplined, the primary route is Matthew 5. Everything else, Augustine, medieval morality, Protestant sermons, modern activism, flows from how that single verse was received and amplified. It's crazy. It's crazy how you can seed a little seed and create monsters. Okay, so so are there none Western sources that echo this sentiment. Idea is easier to spell. Yes, okay. Though the specific anger, insult, murder, flatting in Matthew is unique to Christian West, there are non-Western traditions. What do you mean Christian West? Does it mean like Eastern Orthodoxy doesn't have that? Yeah, I didn't mention Eastern Orthodoxy or Orthodoxy in general. There are non-Western traditions that carry similar intuitions that words can be as harmful as violence, or at least carry life and death weight. Well, if you lie about somebody committing a crime, that's pretty straightforward. Okay, so Confucian, Chinese tradition. Confucius, a gentleman is ashamed of his words, outstrip his deeds. How is it the same? Are you bashing other people again unnecessarily, ChatGPT? Legalist text. Oh, sorry. Here, legalist texts. Hanfizi emphasize that words can destabilize the state. Reckless speech is treated like rebellion. Well, here Matthew's reckless speech is something that we suffer from to this day. But there is another solution. You just stand up and bring the counter argument to the stage in a way that could not be ignored. This is why I was searching so vigorously in the New Testament, something that would stand up against it in a clear way, so somebody would be able to quote it, and that Augustine and Protestants and church and so on wouldn't abuse it in the way that they did. All right, cultural effect. In Chinese political culture, wrong words were often punished like violent crimes, sometimes with execution. Echo speech, existential danger to harmony and order. Indian Hindu Buddhist tradition, the laws of Manu, false accusation and abusive speech are sins with heavy fines, sometimes near equivalent to physical assault. Buddhism. Right speech, no lying, slander, harsh words, or idle chatter. Wrong speech is karmically destructive, as serious as bodily harm. Echo speech is spiritually violent, even if no blood is shed. Islamic tradition. Do not insult one another. Do not defame one another. A Muslim is the one from whose tongue and hand the people are safe. Here, tongue and hand are paired. Words and deeds both cause harm. Gossip is metaphorically called eating your brother's flesh. Very close to words equal violence, imaginary. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, Islam takes that principle to the maximum. Even truth is slander. African traditions. Many sub-Saharan cultures among the Yoruba treat word power as a force that can bless or kill. Curses and slander aren't metaphorical, they are considered dangerous realities. Echo, speech itself is a weapon capable of inflicting spiritual harm akin to physical violence. Indigenous oral societies. In many oral cultures, reputation equals survival. But this is true, though. An insult or false rumor could literally cause someone to be ostracized, starved. But he gives an example of, right? Like if I think back to it, right? So the example that he brings up in Matthew is saying you're a fool. In what world you're a fool is an insult or slander or anything that could actually cause harm, right? Saying to someone you're a fool, right? It's one of those, like it's a thing that nobody can say is any of those things. I disagree. I'm angry with your suggestions. Matthew, I think, was a little bit of a fool. So Matthew 5 is the clearest Western theological route, but China, India, Islam, Africa, indigenous world all developed variations of the idea that speech is life-threatening. So here's my caveat. But Matthew, I hope I'm quoting it correctly and I didn't forget. He said, right? But Matthew brings saying, maybe I'm the idiot, but I don't know. I feel like clearly I'm not the only idiot. Because look at Charlie Kirk. Right. So Matthew brings saying, you are a fool as an example. I just feel like nothing else actually equates to that. Sorry, like you're a fool. Okay, and that's what makes Matthew stand out as especially extreme. It doesn't just condemn slander or false witness like Confucius, Islam, or Hindu law. Don't bring Islam. I think it does with Islam exactly the opposite of what he did with the poor Stoics that it slandered. Hindu law, it uses a banal insult as an example. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever says to his brother, Raka, idiot, will be liable to the council, and whoever says, you fool, will be liable to the hell of fire. Why you fool is significant. It's trivial. It sets a precedent. In Torah, murder is death. Slander is a separate crime. Insults are morally discouraged, but not criminalized. Here, a throwaway insult, moros in Greek, moron, fool, is treated as damnable. That's the leap. It erases the line between casual disrespect and life-taking violence. It sets a precedent. Once fool equals hellfire, every harsh word can be spiritualized into murder. This creates the cultural soil for words equals violence. What was that? It contradicts another New Testament passages. Paul himself calls people fools. Galatians 3:1, you foolish Galatians. Jesus calls Pharisees blind fools. If you fool equals hellfire, then even Jesus and Paul are guilty by this measure. Contrast with non-Western traditions. They all treat speech as dangerous, but usually when it spreads lies, undermines social harmony, curses someone, or destroys reputation. None equate a petty insult like a fool with murder. That's why Matthew's example is radical. It moralizes ordinary human speech into capital-level sin. Takeaway: Matthew 5:22 is unique. It doesn't just condemn harmful speech, it condemns even trivial insults as if they were homicide. This is where the modern fragility mindset, ordinary offense, trauma, violence finds one of its deepest Christian ancestors. Yeah, I don't like that. I'm kind of curious. Is there explicit use of it to justify shutting down debate? I thought this video is gonna be shorter, That's the right sharp question, because if Matthew, you full hellfire, really shaped the West, we should see whether it was ever used explicitly to delegitimize harsh criticism or debate. Here's what I can tell you. Early church fathers. So Augustine, Forced to Faith, cites Matthew 5 often in the Sermon of the Mount. He reads Raka and Full as levels of verbal abuse that bring damnations. Application. Christians should avoid angry debate, insults, or harsh polemic. But Augustine himself calls heretics madmen and fools. So even while quoting Matthew 5, he exempted himself. Effect creates a tool for silencing critics while still reserving harsh words for authority. I'm not making this up. I can't wait. I'm so curious about what you guys are gonna say about it. I think it's an interesting. It's like, if there are idiots like me in existence that read it that way, it means that there is a problem. Medieval church discipline, canon law, and penitential handbooks often list angry words, calling someone fool or idiot as sins requiring confession and penance. This is where Matthew 5 was operationalized. Ordinary insult was criminalized spiritually. It reinforced hierarchical control. Common people couldn't freely argue or rebuke superiors without risking damnation. Interesting. It also, I'm sorry, but as an Israeli, it kind of explains a lot to me of why it feels like to Westerners, the way you say something is so critical. To me, the way like Westerners expect things to be said in order to avoid their hellfire is so handicapped. It's like a handicap that makes it almost impossible to say the truth. If not impossible, but maybe I'm just not smart enough to be able to say the truth without sinning. All right, so it reinforced hierarchical control, hierarchical. So yeah, it reinforced hierarchical control. Common people couldn't freely argue or rebuke superiors without risking damnation. Don't we see it everywhere, even among people on the right, that it works exactly the same way? It's a very strong cultural thing. It's like this is a cultural phenomenon in the West that is real. Like, it's so real. Oh my God. I feel like it's a therapy session, unexpected therapy session that I didn't know I needed. Reformation and post-Reformation. Both Catholic and Protestant preachers hammered Matthew 5 to warn against rivaling. Martin Luther himself, though Ferry, notes, this is said to prevent strife and contention. Puritan sermons, 17th century, in England and New England regularly quoted Matthew 5:22 to tell congregations not to mock authorities or insult clergy. Effect, again, the verse functioned to disciple speech, limit critique, and prevent public dissent. Modern usage. Even in the 19th, 20th centuries, preachers used it to warn against ungodly debate or political insults. In school and churches, Matthew 5:22 was taught as name-calling is a sin that leads to hell. Today, secular activists in discourse echoes the same logic. Insults equals violence. Debate must be civil or it is harmful. Oh my God. Oh, Sorry. Oh my God. Oh my God. What do you do with something like that? This is so ingrained. Oh my God. Oh my God. All right, but I still want to ask about, in honoring my friend AP. Sorry, I have like bags under my eyes. I'm so tired. I was about to crash into bed when I read it. It just alerted me so much. I don't know if it's normal that things like that trigger me enough to be like, is it just me, or could it be the root cause of my suffering? So yeah, yes, I want to honor apostate prophet AP, and he is an Orthodox Christian, Eastern Orthodox, and ask about that specifically. Today, secular activist discourse echoes the same logic: insults equals violence, debate must be civil or it is harmful. So explicit use to shut down debate, yes. Yes, throughout history, Matthew 5 has been quoted by Augustine and church authorities to morally forbid insults in arguments. Incorporated into canon law, penance to disciple ordinary, to discipline. Incorporated into canon law, penance to discipline ordinary speech. Used in sermons to discourage sharp criticism of leaders or doctrines. In practice, it became a weapon. Authorities could call their opponents fools, but Matthew 5:22 ensured that lay people were terrified of doing the same back. I'm speechless. As an Israeli, I'm a layman, so I understand that. Like, it's clear to me that I'm considered a layman, no matter how educated I am or how much I know in Western mind because of class thing. So I can really, really feel it, All right, let's me. What about Orthodox? How many Orthodox are there? Orthodoxy. Excellent question, thank you. So there is Greek, Slavic, Eastern. Has a different way of handling Matthew 5:22 than the Western Latin tradition, and it sheds light on how words equals violence was received. Interesting. So, Orthodox commentary. By the way, if the Orthodox Church did better here, I 100% stand behind AP's decision to choose Eastern Orthodoxy. Just because of that. Just because of that. AP, I'm with you. I'm gonna see him soon because he's coming. Yeah. One of the most influential, so this is the 1st century Constantinople, one of the most influential Orthodox preachers on Matthew 5:22, he says that Jesus is warning against contempt rather than debate itself. He reads Raka and full not as every insult, but as the deeper sin of despairing another person's soul. For him, the danger isn't words themselves, but the hatred behind them. This keeps the distinction between speech in argument and speech in act of spiritual contempt. Oh, AP, I'm with you. Okay. Please, Orthodoxy, don't ruin it for me. Orthodox canon law and practice. Byzantine, it's insanity to me. Do you understand the meaning of it? Like, if you think about Russia, and I don't know much about the Greek, but I speak Russian, right? And I speak and these people, they would call you fool to your face all the time, like exactly the opposite. So, I mean, something there means that there is something that is perceived entirely differently. Otherwise, I guess the they're not disciplined to be polite the way Westerners are. All right, I didn't read segment 2, part 2 yet, so please don't read it for me. Orthodoxy, please. All right. Orthodox canon law and practice. Byzantine canon law did not criminalize ordinary insults with the same severity. Well, the same severity, but it still criminalized it. As Western Catholic penitential, I don't know. Too late, too tired. Insulting clergy or superiors was discouraged, but it was not treated as mortal sin and murder in words. Instead, Orthodoxy saw Matthew 5:22 as a warning against spiritual pride, thinking your brother is worthless. Practical effect: less emphasis on censoring debate, more emphasis on humility of heart. Orthodox ascetic tradition. In monotheistic texts, anger and insulting speech are condemned as passions to be overcome, but again, the focus is on purifying the heart, not equating insults with homicide. Monks are warned against slander, mockery, or ridicule, but debate about truth remains lively in Orthodox tradition. Go Orthodoxy. Oh, I didn't know what was why AP decided to go on Orthodox, but I'm humbled. I'm humbled here. I feel extremely humbled the more I read. Orthodox rhetoric in practice. Test time. I don't know. The Cappadocian fathers all used harsh polemic against heresies. They called opponents madmen, diseased, and blind. So I think AP is that don't let confused Christians to not continue using these kind of terms. Clearly, as an Orthodox Christian, you saying and using harsh speech is actually in line with your church. I think it's so important. I think this segment in particular, AP, I need to tell you in private, listen, this is so important. You need to continue trash talking the way you did until now because it aligns with your doctrine perfectly well. Oh, I love it. Oh my God. They did not feel bound by Matthew 5:22 in literal terms. So Orthodoxy preserved the right to debate fiercely. The verses were spiritualized, not juridical. Not juridical. Juridical. I'm so tired. Western Catholicism took Matthew 5:22 more literally. Confession, penance, censorship of insults, a tool to suppress dissent. Orthodoxy interpreted it spiritually, warning against contempt, pride, and hatred. Practical outcome: Orthodoxy allowed fiery debate and harsh polemics against heresy. Catholic, what do you mean against heresy? What about in favor of heresy? What is heresy? Is like apostasy? What is heresy? Heresy? Orthodoxy allowed fair debate and harsh polemics against heresy. I mean, whatever. Catholicism tended to police words more directly, making Matthew 5:22 a lever for shutting down criticism. And the Protestants did too. Okay, I'm curious. Are there any cases of Western Church taking the Orthodox, now I'm just being a nerd, argument? And vice versa. Is that how you write the vice versa? I'm too tired. Too tired to think. Why am I still here? See how emotional I got about it? All right, great. Yes. Well, I think it would have been impossible if it would have been it would have been weird if it wasn't no, I think. There are moments where East and West borrowed each other's readings of Matthew 5:22, and by extension, the whole words equals violence issue, even though their baseline instincts were different. Western Church picking up the Eastern Orthodox line, Aquinas, 13th century West. In the Summa Theologica, he cites, I don't know how to read it. He softens Augustine's harsher lines and says Jesus' condemnation isn't about every insult, but about insults that come from contempt of a person's soul. This is a very close to the Eastern reading. It's about the spirits behind the insults and this, not the syllables themselves. But what if it's like temporary hate or anger? So in scholastic theology, you sometimes see the West importing Orthodox nuance to avoid the absurdity of "say fool, go to hell." I guess that's so absurd that even the Westerners noticed. Sorry. Orthodox picking up the Western line, Byzantine canon law, 12th, 14th century. As Orthodoxy developed more juridical system under the influence of Justinian's code and later the Roman law, some canonists started listing verbal abuse among sins requiring penance. This looks a lot like the Western penitentials, where Matthew 5:22 justifies confession for bad words and flocking. So while Orthodox theology remained spiritual, in practice, Orthodox courts sometimes punished insults not exactly as murder, but the same penal spirit as the West. Points of convergence, both East and West use Matthew 5:22 polemically. In monastic settings, both traditions warned brothers not to call each other fools. Legit. In clerical disputes, both traditions happily ignored the verse while using harsh language against opponents. Oh, that's beautiful. In pastoral teaching, both told ordinary believers to watch their words more than their rulers ever did. In pastoral teachings, both told ordinary believers to watch their words more than their rulers ever did. Oh, I know. I want ChatGPT to trash talk about Judaism just for you guys to understand that I'm willing to hear criticism on Judaism as well. It's not that I'm not that emotional about it. So, are there echoes in Judaism? Or, if I should finish with talking shit about my own culture. Yes, of course, there are echoes in Judaism, but they look very different from Matthew 5:22. Okay, come on, we're trying to bash Judaism here, just so that the viewers that are Christian would be satisfied, though I think I scared those away a long time ago. Judaism doesn't treat words as powerful, even dangerous, but it never... Okay, it does treat words as powerful, even dangerous, but it never collapses insult into murder in law the way Matthew does. Instead, it distinguishes speech sins as their own category, often very serious, but still distinct from bloodshed. Torah, I read it. Speech, slander, you write with an A. I think I misspelled it before. Hatred and murder are listed side by side, but they are still separate commandments, not one. You shall not. I feel like write it in Hebrew. Like I want to read the Hebrew. I find the English confusing sometimes. False words are condemned, but not equated with murder. Well, you shall not spread false. How do you even bring it as here? Come on, we're trying to talk shit, not say how beautiful Judaism is. Talmud and Rabbinic Judaism, whoever shames his neighbor in public is as though it has shed blood. Here's the closest how humiliation is compared to murder. This is a moral metaphor, not legal. Lashon hara, yes, kills three: the one who speaks, and the one who accepts it, and the one about whom it is spoken. Again, metaphor of killing. not literal law. Pirkei Avot, let your friend's honor be as dear to you as your own. That's different. Besides, I call myself a fool all the time, so I don't see the problem here. That's fair. Let your friend's honor be as dear. Yes, so the medieval Jewish philosophy. Maimonides defined Lashon Hara, evil speech, as extremely destructive, forbidden even if true. Yeah, that's why we don't do some things. Calls it one of the worst sins, but still distinct from actual murder. In his legal code, murder remains as a physical act only. I mean, it's such a weird mumbo jumbo. Practical Judaism, Jewish communities developed strict ethical norms against gossip, slander, and insult, which I suffer from because I love gossip. That's why I keep my goy friends around. But in court, murder and words are always distinct categories. Halakha preserves the Torah's hierarchy of harms. Summary, Judaism does echo the words can kill idea in moral, spiritual, and metaphorical terms. Okay, but is it ever used to shut debate? But it never confuses Hebrew. What is the Hebrew original? And then is it ever used to shut up debate? לא תלך רכיל בעמך, לא תעמוד על דם רע. Oh my God. No. Who translated it? Oh my God. They ruined one of the best. This is a law, by the way, in Israel, this part. לא תעמוד על דם רעך is a law. Oh my God. Literally, by the way, in that exact wording. Oh my God, what did this translation do? I feel so insulted, and my soul was inflicted with much harm. Oh my God, the translation stripped everything away. Oh my God. Okay, do not stand idly in the blood of your neighbor. I am the Lord. Do not hate your brother in your heart. Rebuke, you shall surely rebuke your neighbor. לא תספה לא תישא עליו חטא. So you do not. It's not. It lit. You know why it's so sad? Like, this is like, I don't. You shall list speech, slander, hatred, and murder listed side by. Where's the murder here? By the way. Oh my God. Oh my God. I cannot believe. I'm so sad. Oh my God. What did they do? Oh, that's a different video. I'm talking so much. No. You don't understand. This verse forces you to have a debate. What? Where is the murder here, though? Where is the murder? What murder? No, what? Okay, I don't want to dive into it, but what? Where is the murder here, sir? How is it? You shall not stop up against the life of your neighbor. Where is the murder here? You don't. It's so wrong. It's so wrong. There is no what? Where is the, what murder? What murder? What are you talking about? What murder? Where is the murder? Like listen, this sentence here, like when I say there is a law based on this sentence, that is, by the way, is only in Israel, like this is how critical the sentence is. But the translation strips everything away, like everything. Like, unless I'm super wrong, but you know, yeah, but no, lo ta'amod al dam ra'acha. Don't. It's not about murdering people. It's literally, it says here, do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. And there it, but when it's translated to English, it looks like it talks about murdering or murder, when actually what it is to do everything that you can to save your neighbor, even if he's having a heart attack, right? So if your neighbor is having a heart attack, go and call a doctor. That's what it means. It means like you know, it's, this is the law, right? That, I mean, translation matters. Translation matters. Okay, but okay, is there like, and what is like, what do you, like, I'm, unless I'm like super tired, I forgot how to speak. Yeah, I'm not stupid. Okay, this literally is the exact opposite. It literally says like, you must argue with your neighbor, must call your neighbor a fool if he's a fool. It's like the exact opposite. I'm dead. How can you screw it up so badly? Is it a common English misunderstanding or mistranslation? I'm so sad right now. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. How? No, please tell me it's ChatGPT being an idiot. Please. Oh. Jewish parallel. I don't know. I'm shocked. Why would somebody ruin the Torah like that? Just this so important, such one sentence that is so that has a law written in honor of this one sentence, and it. Please, everybody in the comments, please. I'm too tired to go check all the translations, but please tell me this is not the. Please tell me that something is. I don't know. Help, please help. I didn't know this video is gonna be so emotional. Justification for shutting. No debate. Judaism does have traditions that restrict speech and debate, but the reasoning is very different from Matthew 5:22. In Judaism, the concern is usually communal integrity, preserving unity and respect for Torah, not collapsing insult into murder. Here's the main lines. Talmud. Elisha, what? Ben Avoya calls Achel. The other is essentially what? Because he's considered not debated because he's consider that khair is essentially cut off, not debated. Are you literally bringing like an example of somebody arguing with somebody and they cut them off because it's like they don't feel like debating with him? All Israel have a share in the world to come. Expect those who deny the resurrection and the Torah. Well, not all Jews believe in that crap, honestly. It's not, I mean, sects, okay. Meaning of, like, I get it, but it's not something most Jews today would agree with, let me tell you that. And not even Jews who believe in it believe that's true. So this is the problem with the Talmud. A lot of people just say their opinions there, and it's not necessarily that it's something that, okay, cool, that's your opinion, sir. Jewish tradition often warns not to engage heretics in debate because their words are seen as spiritually corrosive. True, I feel that. But debate is shut down not because words equals violence, because words equal corruption of faith. I guess. Preserving communal authority. Wise men, be careful with your words, lest you incur the penalty of exile and be carried away to a place of evil waters, and the disciples who come after you drink and die, like Matthew did. This is like, by the way, this is the warning, right? So the way the Matthew 5:22 was used, that's what he's talking about. Like, like people that come after drink that Kool-Aid and die. Not necessarily that it was the intention, but this is what happens. Teachers are warned careless words can mislead. Yeah, careless words can mislead students, so speech is restricted to protect the community. God. Lashon hara, do not get them, blah, blah, blah. Don't talk shit about people. It's unnecessary, basically. In practice, rabbis sometimes use Lashon hara to shut down debates they saw as personal attacks rather than truth-seeking. And machloket. Yeah, okay. Machloket dispute. Every dispute that is for the sake of heaven will endure, but one that is not for the sake of heaven will not endure. Hillel, yeah, well, argument for truth, good, divisive argument, shut down. Yeah, if you have an argument about what color is better, blue or red, and you are willing to go to war for it, this is what Judaism shuts down as a debate. It says, like, your debate is awful. This is devices, and people would kill for team blue and team red, for what color is better. That's how crazy people are. Summary: Judaism does justify shutting down debate, but not because words are like, yeah, bullshit. Anyway, ChatGPT. I bet if you try harder, you might find somewhere in some corner. You can bring all the Jews that. You see, maybe I do support shutting down debate. If somebody starts a sentence with "as a Jew," and is about to say something that contradicts everything Judaism is about, then I think it's okay to tell him shut up. Yeah, I think that's legit. Or at least like tell him, like, remove the "as a Jew" part. Stop. All right, thank you. If you're still here, I can't believe it, but thank you. I thought it's gonna be not too long, but my curiosity. Now you see in real time what kind of nerd I am behind the scenes. Like, comment, subscribe, support this channel, send some money. Thank you.